We are joined now by a special edition of the Animal Thunderdome. You heard us talking about this story a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. A gentleman in Florida was out walking his puppy, and that puppy was grabbed by a alligator in Florida. And the man walking the puppy, his name is Richard Wilbanks. He's from Estero, Florida. That's near Fort Myers. He went into this little pond where the alligator was to wrestle back his puppy. The video went viral, and I believe we have Richard Wilbanks with us now. Sir, how you doing this morning?
We're doing fantastic. Clay, how about you?
I'm doing really well. I got to dive into a couple of questions, but I think, first of all, you live in Florida, but I think you are a Georgia Bulldog fan. What has that been like for you?
Well, I certainly am a Georgia Bulldog fan. I grew up in Athens, and my first job was selling peanuts at the football stadium.
Oh, that's great.
When I was about 8.
Yeah.
So you know, this has been kind of a wild time since Gunner had his little incident with the alligator.
Yeah, no doubt at all. All right, so let's go into that. Where are you walking? How old is your puppy, Gunner? And kind of tell me what happened.
Well, Gunner is 4 months old now. He was only about 3 months old when the event happened, and we were just out. It was a beautiful Sunday morning, and we got up and fixed a Bloody Mary and lit a cigar and just decided to go walking out by the pond. And, I heard him squeal, and I was only a few feet away from him, and I turned around and saw the alligator swimming out through the pond with him, and I just reacted. I just went in and got a hold of the alligator and drug him up to the bank and pinned him down and pried his jaws open and got my puppy out.
So did you know, had you been aware that there were alligators in that pond? How big is this pond?
It's probably about 3 acres, I'd say. And yes, we have a tremendous amount of wildlife here, and I did know we had alligators in the pond. The Florida Wildlife Federation had asked me months prior if they could put up cameras out here on my property to film the wildlife, because we've got panthers and bears and foxes and all kind of animals that are around here, and it was their cameras that actually caught the event.
Did you know that? Did you think when you went into the lake and eventually when you got back out with your puppy, oh, I wonder if that's on camera? How did you become aware that they had that footage?
Well, they only download those cameras about once a month, and it was about 3 weeks after it happened. They called me up and said, well, Rick, you won't believe what we've got on our camera. And I said, well, I think I have a pretty good idea of what it is, because I knew where the cameras were.
But you didn't even tell them that you had gone into the lake and pried a puppy out of an alligator's mouth. They had to just go review the footage themselves and tell you about it.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what happened.
Now, the video went viral. You said you were smoking a cigar. You kept the cigar in your mouth even while you were wrestling the alligator. Was that a plan, or is that just a particularly good cigar?
Well, it wasn't planned. I guess, when it happened, I just clamped down on the cigar and, just went under the water. Gunner, the alligator, and myself were all underwater there for a few minutes, and I just came up. I still just had it in my mouth, I guess, and didn't even realize it until, when it went viral. A lot of people started saying, well, my goodness, you still got that cigar stuck in your mouth.
So for people who haven't seen the video, and we're going to tweet out the video again, and I appreciate you coming on the show because this is fantastic. We're talking to Richard Wilbanks. He's from Estero, Florida. Puppy's name is Gunner. Gunner is doing fine, right? He had to go to the vet, but he's 100% recovered at this point.
He is 100% recovered. He spent a couple of days in the hospital because he got a little water in his lungs, and he had one little small puncture wound. I had to get a tetanus shot, and they wanted me to get a few stitches in my hand, and I just came home, put some super glue in them, and pushed them together. But we're both doing fine. Gunner was, matter of fact, he was sworn in and deputized yesterday by the Lee County Sheriff's Department. He's an official deputy dog in our program here in Lee County now.
All right, so you talked about the fact that the reason why the video got out was because they were filming the pond there. Have you ever had any contact with alligators before? Or you ever hunt them? You ever have any kind of interaction with them?
No, sir. No, I do my best to stay away from them. And Gunner and I are on a short leash now. Actually, he didn't have a leash on that morning because I had only had him a week, and when I'd bought a leash and a collar, but when I went and picked Gunner up, he was so small, he only weighed about 3 pounds.
Yeah.
So the collar wouldn't fit him. It was way too big. But he has a harness and a leash now, and I keep him about 10 feet away from the edge of the pond when we walk.
Well, that's good. So I'm curious, when the alligator comes up and grabs him, how did you know where the alligator was in the water? Because you guys were underwater for a minute. How did you track the alligator as you ran into the pond?
Well, I could see his tail as he was swimming away, and I just, got him kind of behind his hind legs and then worked my way up to get him at his front legs, and then got him turned around and just, then I got my feet under myself and, worked him up to the bank. And when I got him to the bank, I just knelt down, kind of pinned him down and, got my hands in front of his mouth and pried his jaws open. And that's a real hard thing to do with an alligator, to open their mouth.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And we're talking to Richard Wilbanks, who saved his puppy Gunner from an alligator. Now, here's the question. How big would the alligator have had to be for you not to go in the water at all?
I didn't even know how large the alligator was. It was underwater, and it just came out from under the water like a rocket.
It happened so fast. That was you just never saw him prior to him grabbing the puppy.
I did not. He was under the water, and it was kind of murky, and he came out from a weed line. And it all just happened so fast. And like I said, I didn't even see the alligator when he grabbed Gunner. I heard Gunner squeal, and then I saw the alligator's tail, and of course I just knew what had happened. So I just went right in after him. I mean, I didn't even have time to think about it.
Do you have any grandchildren?
I do.
So how many grandchildren do you have?
I have 3.
And sons and daughters then, I'm guessing, as well. What was their reaction as you went viral? Because I'm assuming you're not sitting around watching viral videos all day long. And what was your experience like as this video kind of captivated the internet?
Well, it's been fantastic. I guess with COVID and everything that's been going on in the world, that people just needed a feel-good story that had a happy ending, and everybody has just been so kind and considerate and concerned about, how Gunner's doing and how I am, and we just are, just blown away by all the responses and everything. It's just been wonderful.
We're talking to Richard Wilbanks. I appreciate I think you're right. I think many people wanted a positive, happy story with a good ending. Here's a good question for a Georgia Bulldog fan. Who will you be rooting for in the SEC championship game, Florida or Alabama? Is that your wife in the background saying not Florida?
As a Georgia Bulldog, this kind of put a whole new meaning on the phrase Gator hater.
Richard, I appreciate the time. I appreciate you getting up early with us this morning. I hope you and Gunner have a good day, and I appreciate you coming on with us.
Well, thank you so much, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all your listeners.
Thank you. Thank you, and you to your family as well. That's Richard Wilbanks, who saved his dog, his puppy, Gunner, from an alligator. That is just, that's such a good story. When this video went out, so many of you sent it out to me, and I saw it, and the fact that he kept his cigar in his mouth. If you haven't seen this video, we need to make sure that we pop it out for you again because it will make your morning. Good job by you, Danny G, getting Richard on the show there. And, the whole thing is it's just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I did tweet that out last hour, by the way, and I tagged you at Clay Travis.
Okay, so at Danny G Radio, you can go seek that out if you want to actually see the video that we're talking about. Do we still have the local news story on that we could play at some point for people out there listening now who may not have heard that story?
Yeah, I could pull that up.
Yeah, we'll play that local story that we did for you as well. But that is just absolutely fantastic. And by the way, how great was his wife in the background saying "not Florida" when I asked who they were going to be rooting for in the SEC championship game?
Yeah, and mic drop moment by Richard with his Gator hater comment.
Oh yeah, well look, if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, this is the biggest win that a Georgia Bulldog has gotten over the Florida Gators this year because the cocktail party wasn't a pretty game for Bulldog fans. That ended up being a Florida Gator massacre. So this is a big win for Rich. I do wonder how the alligator was not massive, right? That went and got his puppy, but how I've made this argument before. You guys disagreed with me. I think I could kill an alligator. Not a big alligator, but I think if I got him turned over on his back, that I could just go with the elbow over and over again into the midsection, and eventually I would kill the alligator.
If you weren't scared, because I think what happens in that situation with a lot of what would happen probably
People freeze.
Yes, people freeze.
Yeah.
And this happens a lot. Whenever anyone says, oh, that's easy, I could do that, I would handle that different. But then when you're actually in the moment, and you've seen this in radio studios, I'm sure, when outsiders will come in maybe to interview or push a product or something like that, and they're like, oh, this is a piece of cake, I can do it.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as the red on-air light goes on, and they're in front of a microphone with headphones on, what happens 9 out of 10 times?
They definitely freeze up. I've said
Frozen.
This for a ton of times. I have been on the Fox lot in L.A., there at the intersection of Pico and Motor, where Fox Sports films there. And the number of amazing conversations I have seen happen in the Fox green room and the walk, it's no more than probably 150 yards. The walk from the green room to the studio, where all the lights are on, where all the cameras are set up, where all of a sudden you get mic'd up, they powder you, you're sitting there and the red light comes on. The number of people who are a fraction as interesting when the mic and the lights and the cameras go on compared to when there is no pressure at all and when you're just sitting around. And I actually think that I'm certainly an awful actor, right? If you've ever seen any of the skits that we do for our television show, I can't act at all. You give me lines to memorize and stuff like that, I can't do it. I actually think my gift is I'm pretty much the exact same person when the lights and the mic goes on as when the lights and the mic is off. And I don't tense up, I don't get super nervous. I'm pretty much the same person. And I think that is rare for whatever reason, because most people in their shoulders, they tense up, whatever reason. So to your point, Danny G, what I think is so interesting, the alligator came out of nowhere and grabbed his puppy.
And he just reacted. Yeah. And you would probably do the same, because you're right. You're good in live situations.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that situation, because
true.
You
could freeze up.
I could freeze up when there's actually an alligator involved.
But I think that's what would happen with a lot of people is deer in headlights, right? So something like that happens, and it pulls your strength away from you because you're frozen.
Yeah.
And so that's why an alligator would have the upper hand on a lot of people.
Well, the timing on it too, because you have to go into the water. It's not like you're chasing something, into the water's a lot scarier to go grab the alligator and basically drag it back onto the bank and then to pry its jaws open. And how about the fact that he said they wanted to give him stitches and he just decided to super glue it himself?
Clay, are you going to go after one of the Bengal cats if the alligator grabs him?
No, letting it go. I mean, I think it also matters. Like, I'm not a cat guy. I got to be honest with you. I mean, I would if my kids were there probably, because the kids would be traumatized and I'd be like, well, I got to do this. But in general, like, I'm depends on the size of the alligator for me. Like, I know Richard said he didn't think about the size of the alligator, but if that's a 12-foot alligator, I mean, I don't want to go in the water after a 12-foot alligator. So he didn't know how big it was in terms of the alligator size. But I think if it were like a 12 or 15-foot alligator, then, you know, first of all, the alligator might have just eaten it right there on the bank and not even gone back in the water. Like, what are you going to do? You know, like just kind of basically daring you to do something. But no, yeah, the cats got up in the studio the other day, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I couldn't get them out. I was on my headset. I couldn't figure out how to get rid of them. And they're just kittens now. Those things cost me so much money. I mean, I don't even know what the outcome's going to be. But that's pretty awesome. I'm glad he got to come on. I mean, that is a great story.